o'clock, Wednesday, August 27th. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting for the town of Bluffton to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Chairman Charlie Wetmore.
Here.
Vice Chairman Jim Flynn.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Brock.
Here.
Commissioner Rich Delcor.
Here.
Commissioner Lydia DePaul. Commissioner Dan Grove. Commissioner Will Howard.
Here. Okay, we do have 5 members present, which represents a quorum. The Planning Commission will not hear any new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or an additional meeting date as determined by the commission members. Do we have a motion to adopt the minutes from July 25th? Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, public comment. Are there public comments? Yeah. Okay. During the public comment, each speaker is limited to a total of 3 minutes per meeting, regardless of whether the person is speaking on their own behalf or as an agent for others. Meeting attendees may not donate, transfer, yield, or give any or all portion of their speaking time to another person. All public comments are to be conducted from the podium and directed to the commission as a whole and not to any single member thereof. All speakers shall be mindful and respectful of those who are participating in or present at the meeting. Speakers shall be expected to be civil in their language and shall refrain from comment or behavior that involves disorderly speech or action, name calling, personal attacks, threats, obscene or indecent remarks, and/or disruptive actions. All speakers shall confine their comments to issues under the jurisdiction of the commission. Speakers shall not use the public comment period to promote or advertise awards, businesses, services, goods, or candidates for public office. With that said, one thing that I like to add is please keep in mind the commission members up here are not compensated financially in any way, shape, or form. We are fellow citizens who care about the town, and we're trying to do the best we can with what comes before us. With that said, do you want to call the first public comment? And when she calls you, please come up, state your name and your address for the record.
Bill McCollum.
Hello, thank you. My name is Bill McCollum. My address is 7 Lincoln Court, Bluffton, South Carolina. Ready for me to begin? Oh,
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Members of the Planning Commission, thank you for the work that you do for allowing space for public comment. I'm here to speak in regards to the Seagrass Station convenience store, the development plan for that item on the agenda tonight. My main concern is with the tanker truck traffic that will be inevitable with a gas station and convenience store. Currently, the Seagrass Station Road, which is the main entrance into the development, is not suitable for large trucks. A large truck, such as a tanker truck, cannot safely and legally make a right-hand turn entering into the property, the proposed property where the proposed development is going. Its only other option would be to go back and go around the circle, but our circle is actually a square, so there's not room for a tanker truck. The original development was not designed for a convenience store. There's a list of things that were not intended that did get changed with a PUD agreement between the Bank of Kansas and the city later on. But because the original design is not designed for that, the Development Review Committee, as I understand, required that Amanda Road be built, which was in the original original master development plan. So this would alleviate the need for a tanker truck to use Seagrass Station Road because they get into Amanda Road. However, in order for Amanda Road to intersect with Highway 170, they have to do a traffic study, submit to the DOT, and get a permit. There is site distance concerns with them being able to obtain the permit to intersect with Interstate 170 because this is in the end of a curve. The site distance, the latest I believe is 2008, which is post the original master design for the development. So I would kindly ask that this development in that respect not be considered if a DOT permit is not achieved for Amanda Road, because that would be the only way in for a tanker truck. But even with Amanda Road, it will it will drive very close to the community's playground and amenity center, swimming pool, which there's safety and environmental concerns by many of the residents, and you may hear some of that today. But that's the gist of my comments, is the traffic and safety. And there is definitely a question, I'm not a civil engineer, but there's definitely a question whether the South Carolina Department of Transportation would allow Amanda Road to intersect, which would be the only entrance for a gas station tanker truck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany Hendrickson.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Brittany Hendrickson. I live at 62 Augustine Road, Bluffton. I'm a resident of Seagrass Station. I'm here to oppose the proposed gas station and convenience store within the village at Verdier PUD. One of my primary concerns is traffic and roadway safety. According to the Institute of Transportation Engineers, a gas station with a convenience store can generate approximately 1,500 vehicle trips per day. This would significantly increase traffic on SC 170 and strain our smaller neighborhood access roads, which were not designed for high volume or heavy commercial traffic, especially not for regular gas tanker deliveries. Our roads in Seagrass Station have already been patched several times and are scheduled for additional repairs this fall. The wear and tear from large trucks turning into narrow streets will only worsen conditions and reduce our safety, particularly during peak morning and afternoon hours when families are commuting or waiting at school bus stops. Further, the 2011 traffic study for the Verdier PUD already identified traffic concerns, and development has only grown since then, yet no updated traffic study has been conducted. From a 2018 SC.DOT road safety review, we know that in 2016, the section of SC 170 carried over 30,000 vehicles per day, a 24% increase from 2012. That number is likely even higher today. There are additional safety concerns. This area of SC 170 has a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit, no stoplight, and lies on a curve. Conditions that make turning particularly dangerous. The proposed design doesn't adequately account for vehicles, especially tanker trucks, attempting to turn left across traffic into or out of our Seagrass Station Road or even this Amanda Road. These sharp turns pose serious risks, not just to infrastructure, but to human lives. Moreover, SC 170 is a designated hurricane evacuation route. Adding a high-traffic commercial site at this key point risks bottlenecks that would hinder emergency evacuations and regular travel. This location lacks the infrastructure needed to safely support a gas station, such as turn lanes, traffic signals, or widened shoulders. Without those, more traffic means more accidents, and as designed, this project introduces unacceptable risks for our neighborhood. Seagrass Station was intended to be walkable, quiet, residential neighborhood, and a gas station undermines that vision and brings a long-term consequence that are incompatible with the safety and character and quality of life we value. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the board to deny this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Evan Bromley.
Good evening, Commission members. My name is Evan Bromley of the Bromley Law Firm. I am here on behalf of, I represent Seagrass Station Master Property Owners Association, and it
Mr. Bromley, if you would just, your address for the record and then.
Yeah, Bromley Law Firm's address is 211 Goethe Road, Suite B, downtown. In Seagrass Station, the Master Property Owners Association consists of the single-family residences and apartment complex and the commercial properties, and all of which are subject to the Seagrass Master POA and its covenants and conditions and restrictions. The subject property for the Seagrass convenience store is on a commercial property that's subject to the covenants. Those covenants provide the Master Association with the exclusive right to approve any improvements to the property, and that's never happened. We've never, and so in part, I'm here to say, you know, the cart is before the horse. Here, the project's never been before the association, and Seagrass, the Master Association, you know, it's clearly laid out, has the exclusive right to improve or to approve, comment, and review any types of construction or development prior to the start. And I know when you look at your context here and under the 3.10.3A2, you know, one of the things that y'all are looking at is, hey, is it in compliance with all the agreements, the various PUD agreements? Well, you know, it's subject to our covenants too, and there's a whole approval process that has never gone through. We understand the Patels have the right to develop 85,000 square feet, but we've also got the right to approve and review it, and that process has not happened. We also, I think you've heard concerns to the traffic, but we are responsible for maintaining the roads and the access roads. The community and the Master Association pays that. The main entrance is through Seagrass Station. There's a proposed extension of Amanda Road, which I assume would then become common property, of which we would then be responsible for repairing. So we've got a whole suite of issues right there. And so we think, in one of the conditions that I know y'all put in your letter is that you got to have a letter of approval from the Master Association saying everything's in compliance. And we're just saying, hey, we've got a whole process that hasn't happened, and here we're bumping along in this process, and we've never had one through the Master. And so that's my comment there.
Lindsay Senelik? Lindsay Senelik? Kathy Chanel? Kathy Chanel? Matthew Hendrickson?
Good evening. My name is Matthew Hendrickson. I live at 62 Augustine. I'm here on behalf of my neighbor, Kristen Meinhold. She wasn't able to be here this evening because she's ill. She and her family live at Seagrass Station neighborhood, directly behind the parcel that's on today's agenda for the convenience store. Their back fence is less than 20 feet from the proposed site. She and her husband recently retired from the Marine Corps, and they chose Bluffton to raise their family, never imagining a gas station would be built steps away from their home. Now they were considering their decision to stay. This is what she wrote. On behalf of my family and neighbors, I strongly oppose the proposed gas station and convenience store located at 110 Seagrass Station Road and the adjoining stormwater pond, as well as the new access road to 170. The proposed development is dangerously close to our homes, a school bus stop, our pool, and a playground, and that's the community pool. Gasoline is highly flammable. Fuel trucks refueling so close to homes is unsafe. A 50-foot setback is simply not enough. Gas stations also release toxic fumes like benzene, a known carcinogen. These emissions are harmful to everyone, and especially concerning for residents with autoimmune diseases like Christy already has. We should not have to breathe these while enjoying our yards and community areas. The gas stations have the potential to attract crime, loitering, theft, and drug activity. Connecting Amanda Road to the site would create a direct access into our quiet neighborhood. Since the extended stay hotel was approved in the nearby area, we've already seen an increase in crime in our neighborhood, such as car break-ins, bike theft, and even a registered sex offender residing there. This project would worsen the problem. The gas station would add significant traffic where children walk and wait for school buses. It would bring noise and disruption to an otherwise peaceful neighborhood. It's not needed. There's already 8 gas stations within a 1-mile radius of our homes. The industry standard recommended for gas stations is at least 300 feet between gas stations and homes, pools, and playgrounds. This would be less than 50 feet from the current homes, and that's unacceptable. This development would reduce our property values and erode the character of our community. This project threatens our health, safety, and quality of life. Please ask yourselves, would you want a gas station built between 20 feet from your own home? We urge you to do the right thing and reject this proposal. Thank you.
Alrighty, that was all for who submitted online. We do have a resident here who came late to the meeting and did not fill out a form online or in person who wants to know if she can have a chance to speak about new business item number 2.
That's perfectly fine. We do need to make sure we get the form filled out after she speaks, though. And as a reminder, if you'd state your name and your address first.
Yes, My name is Joy Coe. I live at, do I need to give my exact address, or can I just say Rose Hill?
You have to give your street
Okay,
address, sorry.
5 Cottingham Road, Bluffton.
Thank you.
Anyway, good evening. This is concerning item number 2, Livewell Terrace. First and foremost, I am in support of the affordable housing for this property, yet I'm also concerned about preserving wetlands, as you are as well. I went to this property Monday late afternoon and took pictures of the wetland areas of the property. There appears to be about 4 acres of upland close to the church. The rest are inundated with water and appear to be wetlands. In your agenda packet, you noted there was a swale. Upon observation, this is not a shallow channel, but rather a very deep, wide area of water coming from the culvert that runs under Buckwalter Parkway into the property and going to the wetlands east of the property. It appears the town is using a 2003 plat to say that there are no wetlands on this property. A lot has changed in 22 years. In 2003, there were only 2 buildings across from this property, which is where the Publix and the Kroger and all the Frankie Bones and everything else is now. Has anyone from the Planning Commission or the town of Bluffton actually walked this property? If so, if you could raise your hand, and also if you could describe what you saw and let me know what shoes you wore. If no one has walked it, it would be grossly negligent to vote in favor of this development plan as it sits now. I walked all around the property, and everywhere except near the church, is predominantly covered with water at least a foot deep. For instance, where building 1 would go, it's underwater. I'm requesting that you have a wetland survey done before the approval of this development project to prevent the filling of wetlands on the property, and then perhaps scale down the footprint of the apartments to be within the upland area once the survey is completed. I also ask that the Planning Commission not vote until they actually go out and walk the site, and bring your snake boots. Also, do you have an estimate of the cost to fill in the wetlands if you so do, and how much it's going to cost to reroute the water, and who will actually be paying for it? Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And that's all public comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. First main item on the agenda, old business, 121 Burn Church Road Development Plan. A request by Anthony Morse on behalf of the property owner, My Nash Realty Corp., for approval of a preliminary development plan application. The project consists of 4,464 square feet, a commercial building with associated infrastructure. The property is zoned neighborhood core and consists of approximately 0.83 acres identified by the tax map in the agenda and located within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. Mr. Frazier.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a preliminary development plan for 121 Burnt Church Road. It's a request by Anthony Morse of McCad One Consulting Services, LLC, on behalf of My Nash Realty Corp. The applicant proposed the construction of a 4,464 square foot commercial building with associated infrastructure and tenants to be determined. The 0.83 acre property zone neighborhood core located east of Burnt Church and south of Fern Lakes Drive. The applicant proposes a lot line revision that will result in a new acreage of 1.085 acres. Here's where the subject property is located. Here's an aerial of the property. We've got a red line wrapping around 2 parcels. Actually, it is the northernmost parcel and just a little bit of the northern portion of the southern parcel would be included in this property. I'll point that out when we get to the site plan. As the chairman already mentioned, this is old business. On June 25th, 2025, the Planning Commission tabled this application. PC members asked that the applicant provide a traffic assessment, address public comment concerns that were expressed at the meeting by the adjacent property owners, and at the discretion of the applicant, meet with 3 commission members to further refine the proposed development. On July 15 of 2025, the applicant did meet with the 3 planning commission members and provided a resubmittal on July 30th. The resubmittal addresses neighborhood concerns and includes a traffic assessment. The application for a preliminary development plan is located within the neighborhood core and is subject to the standards set forth in the UDO. Subject property is currently vacant and adjacent to Beaufort County jurisdiction. The applicant proposes 4,464 square foot commercial building with associated driveways, access, parking, utilities, and stormwater infrastructure. And the property is also within the Highway Corridor Overlay District and will require a certificate of appropriateness Highway Corridor Overlay that reviews landscaping, lighting, and architecture. That'll have to be issued prior to final development plan approval. Here is the site plan. That's a little bit more of a close-up version of it. This is coming in off of Burnt Church Road. There's parking to the left as you come in. Their previous submittal had a drive-through in here. The drive-through's been removed, and they are providing parking in the back. They've provided a buffer along the last back property line. That was a response to the adjacent residential owners. I'll bring up the landscape plan in a minute to show that. It also stubs to the property to the south of this property. The intent is to have it built to the property line for future shared parking opportunities. There is a minor, kind of hard to see, but there's an existing property line that would be adjusted just a little bit. I don't know the distance there, but just a small amount shifting into this property to allow some additional room for this proposed development. This is the landscape plan. And as I mentioned a minute ago, there's extra landscaping across the back. These are residential lots back here that back up to the property. There's also the parking here is being screened with landscaping as well as landscaping along the side. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing an application for a preliminary development plan. These are the criteria. The responsive criteria was included in your packet. Planning Commission has the authority to take the following action. You can approve the application as submitted. You can approve the application with conditions. You can table the application, or you can deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff finds that the requirements of section 310.3A of the UDO are met and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the development plan application as submitted. And the suggested motion is below. The applicant is here, and I can take any questions, or the applicant can answer any questions you may have. Mr. Chairman.
Seeing as this is old business, I'd like to go ahead and start with the commissioners to see if there are any questions or comments on this, and then we can bring the applicant up if needed.
Okay. Thank you. The only comment that I had that I have concern about is the 19 and 12-inch live oak on the northern side of the building, and ask that as the development plans progress, that they really take note of those and try to do everything they can to preserve those, as well as the cluster of live oaks in the northwest corner in the front of the building. And I also appreciate them taking the time to talk with the 3 of us commissioners and work this with the neighborhood adjacent to them. They really did everything we asked for, and I appreciate all the efforts that they put into this plan.
And I do believe the building was shifted some away from those trees, correct? Yes, they're nodding. But we still.
I'll let the applicant answer that if you.
Yeah, they were all nodding, so let the record note that the applicant nodded yes. But obviously, as Commissioner said, that we are still concerned about those trees, any development near them. We don't want to lose the few live oaks we have around there.
Well, I was happy to hear, I wasn't part of the 3, but I was happy to hear that the 3 meetings of the commissioners and the neighbors and the applicant all worked out, and they're looking to have this project meet everybody's requirements as far as that I'm looking at, so I was happy to hear that.
Commissioner Delcor?
I'm also happy that they've talked with the neighbors. I'm assuming that went well. The one thing that I thought we talked about at the last meeting was there any possibility of moving that stormwater pond away from the back of the property closest to the neighbors? And I'm guessing that was discussed, but couldn't find a better solution, Dan?
I don't know if it shifted at all. It does sit 20 feet off of the property line in the back. I'll let the applicant, respond if they want to on whether it's actually been shifted in any location from the previous.
If you'd like to come up. Come on up to the microphone, just so it's.
It would be kind of tough with the restrictions that you have to move the pond anywhere from where it is now. The pond has decreased in size, and we'll do everything we can to keep that at a minimum. But at this point in time, that is kind of locked in with what we have property-wise to work with.
Understand? Thank you.
And they did add to the buffer along the back significantly, so. But
You're gonna have to go through, a stormwater, approval anyway of your stormwater plan. I just have a question. Are you proposing a stormwater retention pond here or an infiltration area?
Most of this will be infiltration.
Okay.
As much as we possibly can. The pond is for the building only. Everything else will be infiltrated into the ground. If we can make some adjustments to reduce the size of the pond, by putting more infiltration in, we will,
But
that will be done.
that footprint is a pond, right, and not an infiltration area?
I'm sorry?
The footprint shown on this plan that says max limits of stormwater management pond is a pond and not like an infiltration area. It's stormwater, okay.
Correct. Right
Where's
now,
where's the outfall going to be?
the outfall is going to be in the drainage area, the easement that exists in the back.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's a big 15-foot
Is there
easement.
already a ditch?
There's a 30-foot easement back up for
Is
drainage.
there already a ditch there that you're gonna
No.
outfall to?
No. But the topo lends itself to take it down the property line and then down the back of the existing subdivision.
Okay. Yeah, those details will be worked out with your stormwater management plan. I'm just curious. Thank you.
if there are no other comments, entertain a motion.
Dan, could you put the motion back up for us?
I'm sorry.
A long one.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the 121 Burnt Church Road preliminary development plan application as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Under new business, first item, the Goddard School Development Plan. I'll get this. A request by Kathleen Duncan of J.K. Tiller Associates on behalf of David Johnson of Speyside Partners LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan application. The project consists of the construction of a two-story daycare building with associated infrastructure. The property is zoned Buckwalter PUD and consists of approximately 1.6 acres identified by the tax map number in our agenda within the Washington Square Master Plan. Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a preliminary development plan for the Goddard School. It's a request by Kathleen Duncan of J.K. Tiller Associates on behalf of the property owner, David Johnson of Speyside Partners LLC, for approval of a preliminary development plan. The project consists of the construction of a two-story daycare building with associated infrastructure. The 1.6 acre property is zoned Buckwalter PUD development within the Buckwalter Commons Parcel C4 Master Plan. The property is subject to standards set forth in the Buckwalter PUD Concept Plan and Development Agreement, the Buckwalter Commons Parcel C4 Initial Master Plan, and UDO Sections 5.3 and 510. Here is the subject property. It's the northernmost parcel in the Washington Square development. It is the northwest corner of Mott Street and Buckwalter Parkway. Here's an aerial of the same location. Subject parcel is part of the Washington Square development, which was approved in 2018. As part of this plan, the developer constructed roads and infrastructure to support future development of individual parcels. The proposed development includes a 16,080 square foot, two-story daycare center, including 13 classrooms, one multi-purpose room with associated driveways, access, parking, utilities, and stormwater infrastructure. The proposed facility is designed to accommodate approximately 220 students and 26 staff members. Here is the C4 initial master plan I just referenced. This is the location that we are talking about. In the master plan, it's called out as commercial development. Proposed development requires 28 on-site parking spaces. The applicant proposes 45 parking spaces to accommodate staff and school drop-off pickup during peak periods. The Goddard School follows an operational model implemented at other locations where parents are required to park their vehicles and walk their children into the facility. So no drop-off at the curb. Should off-site queuing be necessary, it must be routed through Bleecker Street North as opposed to Mott Street. An exhibit demonstrating the off-site queuing will be required at time of final development plan. Washington Square Review Board approval letter will be required prior to development plan approval. A traffic assessment was submitted by the applicant, and it concludes that the proposed daycare will generate comparable daily and peak hour trip volumes to the commercial use previously anticipated in the original traffic impact study provided for Washington Square. This parcel was contemplated as a gas station, I believe, which would have generated more trips than what's being proposed here. So staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the July 9, 2025 DRC meeting. The applicant provided a response to comments and revised site plans on July 25. Here's the site plan. Here's a closer view of it. The routing just opposite of the entry onto the site is Bleecker Street North. This accommodates two-way traffic going in, circling around, coming out. Playground is on the west side of the building. The east side of the building is artificial turf. Entrance is up front. They're providing walkways that allow parking and walking over a minimal distance before you're on a crosswalk that guides you to the front door. Sidewalk wrapping around the building. They are not providing the 8-foot foundation plantings adjacent to the building because it's understood the playground and being able to look out the windows and see the playground and see the kids is an important part of this. Dumpster is at the end of the dead-end parking area. I can return to this if you have any questions. The landscape plan, also have a close-up of it. And here they're providing in lieu of the 8-foot around the building, but they're providing parking that wraps around the building, plus the enclosed areas for children's playground. I will return real quick to, I don't have I guess I can use this one. This is Bleecker Street North that we're referring to when we're talking about queuing. What we do not want is queuing onto Mott Street that would, if enough cars are there, it would back up into Buckwalter Parkway. We could resolve this by making sure that any off-site queuing while they're waiting and dropping kids off at peak hours, that it is routed along Bleecker Street here rather than Mott Street. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing an application. These are the criteria. The responsive criteria were included in your packet. Planning Commission has the authority to approve as submitted, approve with conditions, table the application, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff finds that the requirements of section 310-3A of the UDO are met and recommends that the planning commission approve the development plan as submitted. Of the suggested motion there, I'll open it up for questions and the applicant is here.
Why don't we have the applicant speak if they'd like? Feel different being on this?
Does feel different. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here and giving your time and attention to things that matter to Bluffton. Again, I'm Kathleen Duncan. I'm a landscape architect and the project manager at J.K. Tiller, and here representing the Goddard School, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, let's start at Commissioner Delacour, your end.
Yeah, I'd like to know just a little bit more about, there's 220 students, there's 45 parking spaces, 26 for staff, so there's 19 for drop-off. I want to understand two things. How are the times staggered so that 19 parking spaces is enough? And how will we enforce people not queuing up on Buckwalter?
So there are 45 parking spaces on property. And so they could park anywhere in those 45 spaces that are, anybody dropping off could park in those spaces. The intention is to have staff actually park off-site. So that would free up the spaces on property. There's within a 3-minute walk, there's another 136 common spaces that are available within the Washington Square development. The schedule works out so that essentially when you need to drop your child off is when you can drop your child off. There's no classroom start time at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or anything like that. So generally speaking, there's a window where typically people are arriving, and it's about a 3-hour window as windows. And the other thing is a lot of the students that are dropped off there's multiple students within a vehicle, so it's not just each 220 cars that are being dropped off within a 3-hour period. It's a much lower number than that.
And how will we enforce what Mr. Fraser just said, that we would not let people queue on Buckwalter? We'd kind of force them through, I guess, Bleecker Street. How would that be enforced?
That's a communication program issue between the people that attend the school and the school. And if it becomes a problem, I am sure that will be addressed with their students that are attending, with the parents of the students.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else. My questions were just related to parking and queuing. Gotcha.
Mine is regarding that. What's going to stop people from coming down Buckwalter and going up Mott instead of going where the road is supposed to be, or for the queuing part of that? Because I was personally involved in one recently, not this project, but a very similar type of incident, and it was a catastrophe. I don't say that this is going to be that way, but it was a big concern of mine that at this point in time, that roadway is heavily traveled at that hour. You know that. Everybody's coming off of 278 and then going to work somewhere or whatever. I think that the one thing that I don't even know if it can be done, but if either the police and fire, and I gotta go back over to council here on this, can be brought in to make sure, or can the schools say they'll put signs up to say you can't go down Mott? Because think about it, if someone needs to get in there, are they gonna go in there as far as coming across the other way?
I would say, well, I'll let you go first.
Richardson, before you answer that, that's actually what I was going to suggest as well, is prior to final development approval, there is sign off by the police chief or designee and the fire marshal or designee as to the stacking and traffic plan. And wanted to see if that was a legal requirement we could do. Well, I mean, we could do it, but.
Yeah, I certainly think that there's, you can request that from the police department. A couple of different options, if it is included as a condition of their final development approvals, that the traffic is going to be routed so it's not on Mott Street to prevent backing up. And there's a continued violation. I mean, that would result in citations to the property owner, or whoever's running the business there, which I assume will then be, again, communicated to the parents to make sure. You've got May River Montessori, how they handle it is with a staff person to ensure that it's being directed the right way through Old Town. I assume something similar can be done there, albeit it's a little bit more complex on Parkway versus Calhoun. But I think it is primarily going to be an educational component and enforcement through civil citations or through whatever other means may be available to us if they continue to violate the development plan approvals. But I think you can include that as a condition.
Okay. The concern, just so the applicant knows this, we have another school that we approved up the road, not very far from there. It was represented that there would not be traffic backups, that it would not affect other people that are in that development, and the opposite is happening. And what we're having to do is we're having to hit it from the other end now, involving police chief, fire marshal, other tenants in the plaza, to the point where that school may have to relocate. And the last thing we want to do is say, okay, this looks great, you got a great plan, and 2 years from now, we're talking to you about it doesn't work, you've got to relocate.
I think there's a couple of points that I would make. I think one being, this is not, for the Goddard School, this is not his first location. So he's got, I want to say, was it 4 or 5? 5 locations, and several of which are this exact size, this exact parking count, not exact, very close proximity of size, square footage of space, classroom size, staff numbers, and parking spaces. And in all of those locations, and all of them are in different kinds of settings, none of them are causing traffic backups beyond the property. That's just not happening. So if that, I don't know that that gives you any assurances, but they do have traffic studies actually for several of those projects that can be provided, if that's the will of the commission. The other aspect I would say to this, because this is part of Washington Square, and you have the Ludlow access point as well, I think that, and there's anticipated to be a light out here. You've got deceleration turn lanes, both turning left in here, both turning right. So there's a lot of infrastructure in place around here, this site, that I think make a huge difference in terms of the movement around this property, access to and from, which is a great advantage, I think, to this site.
Well, go ahead.
Commissioner Wetmore, the one thing that was new information for me was, of the 45 parking spaces, the applicant is suggesting that the staff, which is 26, is not going to use them. If those 45 spaces were available for parents, I think that would really mitigate the problem we're talking about. I'm a little bit suspect that the staff isn't going to park close. So if those spots could be reserved for parents and not staff, that might really help the situation.
Yeah, my opinion on that matter is that's probably one of their solutions if there is a traffic backup, is making sure the staff isn't parking there, they're parking somewhere else. And that's what the other school's going through right now, is where can we move staff, where can we do these things to make traffic flow? I know you of all people appreciate the concerns on this and making sure we don't create a traffic nightmare. The rest of the commission knows my nightmare is if a Chick-fil-A ever wants to build in the town limits, because we'll have the same issue times 10. My suggestion to commission is whoever makes the motion, go ahead and put a condition on it that the police chief or designee and fire marshal or designee review and approve the plan prior to final. That way we get 2 extra sets of professional eyes on it. And, you know, that gives the applicant the chance to submit the data they have on the other schools, and then we go through that instead of second guessing ourselves here. I do have a question, Mr. Frazier. That north-south connector road, Mott Street, is supposed to, at some time, by some magical way, connect to where the Cinemark is and the plaza. Do we have any indication as to if it's being funded, if anybody's funding it, or is it still just a ghost at some point in time it's gonna
You're
connect?
talking about Bleecker Street going south?
No, Mott Street going north. Mott Street is supposed to.
Yeah. I have, no, I don't think there's anything.
I didn't
in
think there was
discussion right
anything,
now.
but I wanted to ask just to see, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that takes two parties because it's not just the developer on this side, it's the property owner on the other side who has to meet that road to
And-
make that happen.
Yeah, and that's a real good point, and that's why we on commission nowadays require that they pave right to the property line, is to avoid this very situation. Do you want to take it back to the proposed motion page, sir? Thank you. Entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve the Goddard School Preliminary Development Plan application with the condition that the school coordinates with the Bluffton PD, the alternate queuing plans based on the need in their program, so.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion?
Want fire in there?
I think the police can pull the fire in as part of it, so I think that's fine. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2 on new business, Livewell Terrace Development Plan. A request by Livewell Terrace LP on behalf of property owner Beaufort County for approval of a preliminary development plan application. The project consists of the construction of a 120-unit apartment complex with a leasing office, future medical building, and associated infrastructure. The property is zoned Buckwalter Planned Unit Development and consists of approximately 10.09 acres identified by the tax map number in this agenda within the Buckwalter Commons Phase 1 Master Plan. Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a preliminary development plan application for Livewell Terrace. It's a request by Livewell Terrace LP on behalf of the property owner, Beaufort County, for approval of a preliminary development plan. The applicant proposes a 120-unit apartment complex with a leasing office and future medical building and associated infrastructure. The approximately 10-acre property is zoned Buckwalter PUD with the Buckwalter Commons, within the Buckwalter Commons planning tract. Property is subject to standards set forth in the Buckwalter PUD Concept Plan and Development Agreement, Buckwalter Commons Phase 1 Initial Master Plan, and UDO Sections 5.3 and 5.10. Here's the location of the property. It is off Buckwalter Parkway, opposite of the Buckwalter Place development. Aerial is the same location. It is actually within parcel C6 of the Buckwalter Commons Master Plan. On August 12th, 2025, Town Council approved a transfer of development rights of 60 residential units from the town's development rights bank. A 100% density bonus for affordable workforce housing was also approved, allowing for an additional 60 dwelling units for the property. The units will be available to Beaufort County Memorial Hospital employees, but also to any other person seeking affordable housing. The development includes 30 units restricted to 40% area median income, 60 units restricted to 60% AMI, and 30 units restricted to 80% AMI. The proposed development includes 5 multifamily buildings totaling 120 units, 1 leasing office building, amenities, and associated infrastructure. It'll also include a building pad for a future 6,000 square foot medical office building. The site is primarily accessed from Buckwalter Parkway. However, a second access will be utilizing a shared access easement with Lord of Life Church to the south. This will circle around and exit out onto Buckwalter Parkway at the signalized intersection opposite Buckwalter Place Boulevard. TIA is currently being prepared and is anticipated to be completed by mid to end of September. The data collection begins this week because they're trying to capture school-related traffic. The TIA will be provided at time of final development plan review. In support of the proposed development, 291 on-site parking spaces are required, calculated as 2.25 spaces per apartment and 3.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of the medical office use building. The applicant is proposing 263 spaces. Town staff is going to work with the applicant on opportunities to meet the parking requirement. So their 263 spaces works out to like 2.01 parking spaces per apartment. We see opportunities to get them up, get the additional, I think it's 28 parking spaces, to get them up to meeting the 2.25 space requirement. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the July 9, 2025 DRC meeting. The applicant provided a response to comments and revised site plans on July 31st, 2025. Here's the site plan. It's actually off the index sheet, so ignore the squared up lines. I also have it in a closer version if we need to zoom in and talk about anything. Here's the primary access point is coming off of Buckwalter Parkway. To the left as you're entering is the leasing office. To the left of that will be the building pad for a future medical office building, 6,000 square feet. So here's the tie into the parking lot for Lord of Life Church. This would continue through the parking lot and come out at opposite Buckwalter Place Boulevard. It's a total of five buildings with adjacent parking, playground and back. We see opportunities for some additional parking in multiple locations. The property line is actually the wetland determination line, and they have to come 50 feet off of that with a wetland buffer. That 50 foot takes them to this, what you see is the line here. The heavier line is actually a retaining wall that is part of the design of the site plan. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing an application for a preliminary development plan. These are the criteria. Responses were included in the packet. Planning Commission can take the following action. You can approve it as submitted. You can approve the application with conditions. You can table the application, or you can deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Should the Planning Commission choose to approve the application with conditions, town staff finds that the following conditions should be met prior to final development plan approval to be in conformance with UDO section 310.3A. The applicant will coordinate with town staff to meet the parking requirements that are per Buckwalter PUD ZDSO 90/3 modifications, section 5211. I have a suggested motion. I'll open it up for questions. The applicant is here. Mr. Chairman.
If the applicant would like to speak to the project.
My name's Tim Butcher with Caroline Engineering, representing the Livewell Terrace project. Dan did a great job presenting the project, and pretty much just here to answer any questions you guys have. Got the ownership and developer and their counsel here, so I'm just here to anything that you guys need.
Well, let me ask you, based on the public comment we had earlier, as far as wetlands on the property, Army Corps of Engineer delineation, any comments on that? Any data to back that up?
Yeah, so back, I want to say 2003, when the PUD was done, there was a delineation then, and we just had another, and that was verified as well by the Corps. In 2022, we had another delineation that was verified by the Corps as well, so it was, now we have a current delineation for the site, so.
And I know I've walked that property, it's been about 6 months, but it was, for what it's worth, it was dry back then.
We've had some extreme rain in the last month here.
I'm thinking that's probably played into it somewhat, but we can't, Richardson, help me out here. Can we overrule the Army Corps of Engineer and say there are wetlands where they say there aren't?
Under our wetland ordinance, so this was a 2022 one, it's good for 5 years. The wetland ordinance the town just adopted creates kind of a distinction point from September 2023 and prior. That was prior to the decision that the EPA would, or the Corps would no longer be focused on jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional. It would only look at jurisdictional. So the way that the ordinance as drafted and approved by town councils is written, delineations that were issued prior to 2023 and that are still in effect and the terms are being complied with, those are binding on the town as to the location and determination of where the wetlands are located. So, long answer, no.
Sounds like an attorney answered that. Let's go ahead. Any comments, questions?
Only comment question I have is relating to the requirement or the condition possibly from the town on parking and meeting that requirement. Do you see that being a possibility?
Yeah, I think we could work with the town. We had a very loose site plan, you know, we started out, I want to say SC housing requirements was somewhere around, 1.5. They had a ratio on what size it is, how many spaces required per unit. The town of Bluffton UDO was at 2, but the PUD for some reason at 2.25. So we met 2, we have a little more spacious, units, but I think we can get a little more aggressive and definitely squeeze them in. And, I think working with Dan and staff, we don't really see too many issues.
I think that's probably critical because there are going to be a lot of workforce people that are there, and that usually leads to more vehicles, so.
No, that was my concern. It was just that. I know you're working with the town, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm got the same deal. I mean, you're at 80% of the parking requirement. I know there are other multifamily projects that were required prior to approval to prove they could meet the 2.25 that's required in that PUD. So, I don't know,
We think we can squeeze them in. Commissioner Delcor?
Parking, echo that. Question, a little bit different, maybe this goes to either Dan or Richardson. 30% AMI, 60% AMI, 80% AMI. Is the leasing office in charge of that? And how do we in the town know that you're complying with that?
Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm a development specialist with Woda Cooper. To answer your question, Woda Cooper is vertically integrated. We do have a management team. They will have on-site staff at the leasing, and they work directly with South Carolina Housing to ensure that we are following their rules as well as any rules of the town to make sure that everybody income qualifies, as well as other requirements for living in Livewell Terrace.
So if I understand you correctly, you have a management group that would enforce that. Does the town do any oversight of that?
As to this specific project, I can't comment, but in other projects where affordable housing has been I know there's the Crown Apartments out in Verdier, yes, the town does and has the ability to verify annually with those organizations their affordability covenants of record in any of these projects that have an affordability component that gives the town some enforcement rights. It all just depends on the level of the town's involvement and investment in the project. So, yes, sir, Mr.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the fact that the density bonus happened here for affordable housing, the town has a right to.
That's what I was hoping, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion. Dan, can we get that back up? I move to conditionally approve the Livewell Terrace preliminary development plan Application subject to the following conditions. Number one, the applicant will coordinate with the town staff to meet the parking requirement, Buckwalter PUD, modification, section 5211.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next on new business. Item 3, Seagrass Station Convenience Store Development Plan. A request by Girish Kumar Patel, hopefully I didn't butcher that, for approval of a preliminary development plan application. The project consists of the construction of a 6,000 square foot convenience store, fueling station with associated infrastructure. The property is within the Village at Verdier planned unit development and consists of 5.46 acres identified by tax map number in the agenda at the intersection of Highway 170 and Seagrass Station Road. Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a preliminary development plan for Seagrass Station's convenience store. It is a request by Girish Kumar Patel for approval of a preliminary development plan. The application proposes a 6,000 square foot convenience store and fueling station with associated infrastructure. Property zone Village at Verdier PUD, and per the First Amendment to the development agreement adopted on April 12, 2011, the property shall be developed in accordance with the Town of Bluffton's Unified Development Ordinance. The 5.46 acre property is located at southeast corner of the intersection of Oak Highway and Seagrass Station Road within the Village at Verdier master plan. Here's the location of the property. There's an aerial of the same location. The applicant proposes the construction of a 6,000 square foot convenience store, fueling station with associated driveways, access, parking, utilities, and stormwater infrastructure. The site will be accessed from Ocoee Highway and Seagrass Station Road, and an internal connection to Amanda Road as well. Per the approved master plan, the applicant proposes a connector road between SC 170 Ocoee Highway and Seagrass Station Road. A Village of Verdier master property owners association application approval letter will be required prior to development plan approval. And SCDOT encroachment permit will be required for offsite improvements. Here is the current Village at Verdier master plan. This one was amended just a couple of years ago, and it changed this access point to being dedicated only to this parcel here. What we are looking at is called out as Parcel X, mixed-use development. The connection that we are talking about, Amanda Road, I'll show you on the site plan, but it is on the master plan, it is showing that there is a connection out to Ocoee Highway. It varies a little bit with the site plan. It's still a connection, but the connection actually ties in to the required road that curves in from Seagrass Station Road into Ocoee Highway. It's going to be clearer here in a second. A total of 24 on-site parking spaces are required and 36 have been provided. A landscape island will be required after every 8 continuous parking spaces. I think they have 1 or 2 locations where they're going to have to put in a landscape island. The parking and/or service areas shall be separated from adjoining residential properties by a planting screen, fence, or wall at least 6 feet in height. That is per UDO section 4.4.2B2. The applicant proposes 10 fueling pumps. However, no more than 8 pumps are permitted per UDO section 4.4.2B4. To ensure adequate gasoline and delivery truck routing, the applicant must provide a truck circulation exhibit at time of final development plan submittal. Here is the site plan. This shows that this property here is also owned by the applicant. Here's the parcel, that's the subject parcel, off-site detention provided here. This is Seagrass Station coming off of Ocoee Highway. So Seagrass Station Road has a apron right now. This would be the This would be the road that's being built in conjunction with this development plan, coming back out to Okeechobee Highway. This is an extension of the internal residential road that would tie in and be controlled with a stop sign. Here's a closer view. We've got 10 pumps here. There needs to be 8. The anticipated route for any fueling and large truck deliveries would be entering off of Seagrass Station or the reverse, and coming through here. Here's the underground tanks, and coming back out and headed back out to Okeechobee Highway. Here's the location where they're going to have to add at least one landscape island in here. This is the planting plan. What we have is the amenities for the adjacent residential are here. It's actually a community room and pool. These are single-family residential that are backing up to the property here. I thought I had a close-up of this. So landscaping is provided here along with an infiltration basin. Landscaping here, we'll expect to see more landscaping up to 6 feet in height, and that would include in here. And we can handle that at time of final development plan. They don't even need to provide a landscape plan at this point in the process, but this gives us the opportunity to review it and give them some comments ahead of time. The applicant has provided a traffic impact analysis technical memo dated January 10, 2022, which includes the proposed land use as defined in the Village at Verdier PUD. The summary of the TIA states that the town of Bluffton recently conducted a signal warrant analysis at the intersection of Okeechobee Highway at Seagrass Station, and it was not warranted per a discussion with DOT. Staff will require an updated TIA and or a signal warrant analysis to verify the validity of the submitted findings. I believe they submitted this also to Josh Johnson with SCDOT, District 6. The TIA that they've submitted with this application, he provided some preliminary feedback. I'll let the applicant elaborate on that. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the July 23, 2025 DRC meeting. 5 residents of the Seagrass Station community spoke in opposition to the proposed development. The applicant provided a response to comments and revised site plans on July 30th, 2025. Subject parcel is within the Highway Corridor Overlay District and will require a certificate of appropriateness, reviewing landscaping, lighting, and architecture at time of final development plan approval. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in Section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing the application. Here are the criteria. The responses are in the packet. Planning Commission has the authority to take the following action. You can approve as submitted. You can approve with conditions. You can table the application, or you can deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Staff recommendation. Should Planning Commission choose to approve the application with conditions, town staff finds the following conditions should be met prior to final development plan approval to be in conformance with UDO Section 310.3A. One is to provide an updated landscape plan demonstrating the planting screen, fence, or wall at least 6 feet in height along the parking and or service areas adjacent to residential properties at time of final development plan review. We would include that it would also be adjacent to the amenity as well as the single-family residential lots. 2 would be provide an updated site plan demonstrating 8 fuel pumps at time of final development plan review. They're currently proposing 10. And 3 would be provide a truck circulation exhibit at time of final development plan review. So there's a suggested motion. I can open it up for questions. The applicant is here.
Let's go ahead and let the applicant speak, and then we'll open it for questions and comments.
Good evening. I'm Josh Tiller with J.K. Tiller Associates.
Do you have your entire staff here?
No. I'll get back to this. I actually have some questions too. But before I get to that, we have and one thing, this is one thing that might ease some concerns based on some of the public comment, but our site, we placed this convenience store and gas station at the very northwest corner of the site. So we're approximately, I heard we're 20 feet away from residential, but by the way the crow flies, we're probably 400 to 500 feet away from those residential. We're actually adjacent to the extended stay hotel, which is to the east of our site, is at the bottom of the plan here. And I don't believe that requirement for the buffer or those additional plantings extend along this portion of the property line, but we're happy to provide additional plantings in here and along this property line to meet those standards.
That's correct.
In addition, we did have a handicap ramp in here, but we do have room for additional planting island and can accommodate that as well. And as far as the HOA's request for ARB approval, we will be back before you for highway corridor review, which you'll get to see and review the architecture. Those plans are currently in the works, and we will be in communication with the HOA and working with them on HOA approval for the architecture as well. We've also got Mr. Moore here, who's our civil engineer, so if you have any questions for him, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
I had one question pertaining to one of the comments about the current condition of the entrance at the main entrance. I think it's brick pavers. It's in pretty bad shape. And obviously, you know, the weight of the trucks is going to really put a toll on those, even worse. Have you guys thought about how to address that?
I know we'll have to tie into that road. There is an existing stub out, and I'm not sure exactly where that line of starts or begins, but I'm sure we'll have to meet or exceed.
Hey, I'm Robert Moore, civil engineer. So as the plan shows, we will also have this additional connection here to the SCDOT right-of-way, which is somewhat of an extension of the Amanda Road, which will relieve some of those concerns of trucks coming through that entrance to the Seagrass Station.
I have a couple. Just regarding the proposed, I guess it would be up off of Amanda. Is that correct? Yep. Do you have approval from the state to be able to put that in?
So we're in the process of working with the state to get the permit. So we have to get a full South Carolina DOT permit for that driveway connection. So we've got to submit traffic study to them. They gave us two options. We either could get a letter sign off from y'all that we don't need that based on the information we've already submitted, or we could submit new information to them to let them know if there's a signal needed at the Seagrass Station intersection.
That was my second question.
Right, or a decel lane needed for our connection where we're proposing it. So we've got a little bit of a road left to go with South Carolina DOT, but that permitting would come after this step of the process for us.
And again, listening to the public and their feelings of this project as well. You know, my concern would probably on your part, if it's not, if getting that letter from the master POA.
Right.
Something I would think you might run into an issue with as well.
Yeah. We've got some steps left, yes, for sure.
A couple questions on the POA. Josh, is there approval for architecture only, or is it for the site planning? Is it for, are there standards in the POA documents as far as orientation of the building? And Mr. Baumley, I'm looking at you. I don't know if you know.
Well, it's not the architecture only.
I'm sorry, I guess you should approach.
It's not to architecture only, it's to any construction or development of a building or exterior modification. But there are no set ARC standards that are set forth.
So, I mean, that is kind of concerning in itself because that's a huge gray area that could prevent anybody from ever developing on property that they have rights to develop. So how, next question is the construction of for the DOT access road and the potential extension of Amanda Road. Are you going to build that and then convey it to the POA? Or are you going to maintain that yourself because by developing this for your use, you're putting a burden on the POA to maintain and develop it?
Right.
I'm assuming you're going to be paying into that property owners association, but would your portion cover as much to maintain that road as a resident?
So it's my understanding, and Dan, you may be able to provide some guidance on this. There's an access easement across that portion of our property. You can kind of see the dash line on the backside where the trees are located, where it's adjacent to the residential and the hotel. It is private property. That road is private property, but there is an access easement there that will be on that portion of the road. Now, the part that goes out to the state highway, that access easement doesn't turn and follow that. So the road would be the responsibility of the owners to construct, pay for, maintain, all of that.
Okay.
Dan, is that?
I think that sounds right. And then the next question is, this is for either Dan or Richardson. I know what the master plan shows a full extension of Amanda Road out to Highway 170.
That's correct.
But that was for a different use, for a mixed-use development versus a strictly commercial use. Is there any way you would allow the applicant to only build the road to access 170, but not provide access into the residential portion of the property, a secondary access right there into the residential portion of the property of Seagrass?
Well, two things. One is it would require an amendment to the master plan. The second thing is but the most recent amendment to the master plan actually did something very similar, and what it did was it took this connection out with the neighborhood. It would have to be a similar amendment, but I think at town council, they made it pretty clear that they did not want to see this coming back to them, asking for that second access point to be removed.
I think the solution there is to have a gated exit that the residents could control and that people from 170 wouldn't go in. But I think that's a conversation that can happen.
I know at the time that this amendment took place, that the residents in the back said they didn't necessarily want that connection ever being built anyway.
Was the intent of that secondary access for EVA access only?
I don't think so. I mean, it was just to provide more opportunities so that everybody's not channeling out on Seagrass Road, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
And one of the things that council has made very clear is they want to see neighborhoods have at least 2 entrances.
That's the emergency access,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
That's why I'm asking, if it's just emergency access, then you could gate it.
Right.
And put a Knox on it and fire department, whatever could.
Yeah.
All these questions.
Yeah, so part of and this is just based off of prior work with council, and this a little bit speculative, but council's been very clear about their desire for interconnectivity within communities and in between communities. There's been a concerted effort to try to ensure that they're interconnectivity between uses remains as open as possible. I think I would be hesitant about imposing any sort of gating condition on that because it would require obviously potentially the approval of town council, but as well as the approval of a third party, private property owners association. So we don't want to be delegating any of that authority, just to the extent. But if that's something that they wish to explore independently, that's certainly, again, something that can be raised and perhaps discussed with council and staff with some amendment, and it may require amendments to the master plan. But I agree with Mr. Frazier that the use that had been indicated down in the, called the bottom right corner, because that portion of the master plan where the road was removed, I think it was the type of use that made sense to have that removed and not that interconnectivity because of the, that was, I believe, the car storage. But, yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying not to speak anymore at this meeting if possible, but if I may, just for the people who are here from the public, give them a little bit of an idea of what stage in the process we're in right now. That this is a preliminary development plan. This is for the Planning Commission to review to make sure that it meets certain requirements under our town code. In that way that the owners of the property and the developers can move forward with more complex or more sophisticated plans so that they know before putting in, developing everything from architecture to stormwater to full kit and caboodle, they know that it meets the baseline of town code. So I just wanted to, you never know how much experience people have with the Planning Commission here.
Yeah, I really don't have anything else. That's just my concerns. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of conditions for this but I think they can all be addressed for sure, so.
Commissioner Wetmore, the only thing I would have, in addition to everything else that was said, our first agenda item was a very good testimony of a developer talking to the neighbors to work something out. You've probably heard a lot of concern here today. I would strongly encourage you to continue to talk to the neighbors, not only about this, but about that other big space that is owned by the applicant that could be developed, because that's going to be the next thing in the neighbors' heads. And so engaging with the neighbors would be my strong suggestion.
Thank you. How far along are you in your TIA?
We're at the beginning stages of it.
You're just,
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just waiting for school, right? Okay. And when was the last warrant study done, Dan? The signal warrant study, was that for Crown?
Yeah,
22?
Yeah, March of 2022, I think the town even paid for it.
Did that signal warrant study include any perceived or proposed use for this lot? I don't believe it did.
Unfortunately, the signal warrant study will deal with current conditions and not proposed.
Right.
Which you gave me a great lead into what I want to discuss with the commission. I think if we do move forward with this, I have a major concern. I actually have two major concerns. Major concern number one is the residents have an amenity area there. And that amenity area doesn't need to be looking across the street or down the road at a gas station. So there needs to be whatever the town will allow height-wise, a 6-foot and 8-foot landscaped fence worked on with the neighbors that they're comfortable with, that gives them that privacy that they have now. That's one of my major concerns. Not heavy landscaping, but something that actually blocks the view from that in both directions. But one that's an even more concerning to me is that intersection. And that intersection at some point in time, and I think this is probably the point in time, is going to need a traffic light. It's going to warrant a traffic light. I think we should seriously consider making condition of this approval, if it's an approval, to move forward, that not only do we require a signal warrant analysis after the project is done during the school year, but that money for a traffic light is bonded in case it's required. And Richardson knows I'm having him think through whether or not we can require this. But my concern is, we get to the end of this project, this convenience store is built, and you know it sucks, it's a function of life, but the last one to build before a traffic light is required is the one who has to pay for it. And if this convenience store is what requires the light, and they do the warrant analysis, and it says, yes, a light's required, and the money isn't there, I feel we have been remiss in making sure that that happens.
If I could, our correspondence with Josh Johnson at the South Carolina DOT office, one of his comments is that he will require us to, if we don't get the written commitment from you guys that we don't need the traffic signal. A standard TIA is needed for the site proposed to include a signal warrant projection. Note that if a signal is projected to be warranted, then the local government will still need to provide documentation as it relates to the commitment for the future traffic signal installation at the developer or local government expense. So in other words, they're not going to approve our driveway until we do a signal warrant study.
But that sentence said at our expense or your expense, and I can tell you it's not going to be at our
the
expense.
developer's expense.
Yeah. So it sounds like a condition like that with bonding the money, and you get the money back if it's not warranted.
Right.
You know, is the best way to go to assure that if that signal is needed, it gets put in. As somebody who used to come out that back entrance to Sun City all the time, I know how dangerous that intersection was 2 years ago. I can only imagine what it's like now, even with the improvements. That's, the PUD letter is a foregone, you need it for your approval. I mean, that's, you have to have one at final, so you guys are gonna have to work together whether you want to or not. And I'm talking to both sides. I think, and I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but I think a fence is a necessity. I think that can be, from a perspective, Mr. Frazier, that can be addressed with HCOD, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because it's not on this particular property, it would be more or less across the street. Can that still be required?
So it could be on our property.
Okay.
There's that 50-foot access easement, I believe, and the way that it's laid out, there's a gap between the.
So the big gap across the street. Got it.
This area, that's where their amenity site is, so there's ample space in there, and then we can run a fence line along this portion. One thing to note, even with that fence, there is, 50 feet of existing vegetation buffer before you get to the residential lot, so there's ample opportunities for noise abatement
And we've told other people this from up here, but it's be good neighbors. That's correct.
And we heard from the neighbors at our DRC meeting, and we did address a lot of those issues from a landscape standpoint and a site plan standpoint after that meeting.
Any other questions or comments, folks? Just a quick review, things that we are looking to make sure that we have in this approval. The 3 conditions that the staff have with the screening fence or so on, the updated site plan with only 8 fuel pumps, truck circulation exhibit, and I truly would like us to consider the signal warrant and the bonding for the light.
Mr. Chairman, instead of using the term bonding, just because it's got a limited scope, a financial commitment and surety from the developer if traffic signal is warranted, a surety that it will be paid for by the developer. So we have, I think there's 3 or 4 different development sureties within the UDO.
Installation and maintenance.
installation of hand. So you can do letters of credit, bonds. There's all sorts of, I think there's a couple of different ways to do it. So I just want to have that sort of flexibility for them as well.
Sounds like if somebody's about to do a motion, it might be Will.
That sounds about right. Yes, sir.
Are you ready for a motion? Yeah, I will move to conditionally approve the Seagrass Station Convenience Store preliminary development plan, subject to the following conditions. One, provide an updated landscape plan demonstrating the planting screen, fence or wall at least 6 feet in height along the parking and or service areas adjacent to residential properties at time of final development plan review. Two, provide an updated site plan demonstrating 8 fuel pumps at the time of the final development plan as opposed to the 10 shown on the site plan submitted. 3, provide a truck circulation exhibit at time of final development plan review to address movement of fuel trucks. And 4, provide an updated TIA and signal warrant analysis, as well as a financial commitment to the installation and maintenance of a traffic signal if it is so warranted.
The warrant analysis will be after.
Right. Yeah, they won't accept the warrant analysis. Will they accept a projection?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just want to say, work with the neighbors.
And I would second that. Please engage with the neighbors.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, final item tonight, agenda item number 4 under new business. 1271 May River Road Development Plan. A request by Kathleen Duncan of J.K. Tiller Associates, Inc., on behalf of property owner Sharon Piari Patel for approval of preliminary development plan application. This project consists of construction of a 5,259 square foot mixed-use building and a 1,200 square foot carriage house with associated infrastructure. The property is zoned Neighborhood General Historic District, consists of 0.34 acres and identified by tax map number in the agenda within the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a preliminary development plan for 1271 May River Road. The applicant is Kathleen Duncan of J.K. Diller Associates on behalf of Sharon Patel for approval of a preliminary development plan. The applicant proposes a 5,259 square foot mixed-use building and a 1,200 square foot carriage house with associated infrastructure. Future tenants are to be determined. Subject property is zoned Neighborhood General Historic District. As such, is the subject to the standards set forth in the Unified Development Ordinance. It is a 0.34 acre property located on the north side of May River Road, west of Gothi Road, within the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. Here is the location of the property, just east of the Schultz Road, May River Road intersection. Here's an aerial of the same location. The applicant proposes the construction of a 5,259 square foot, 2.5 story mixed use professional building designed with potential for office, retail, personal service establishment, professional office, or medical office use, with 2 residential units on the 2nd story and on the half story above. In addition, a 1,200 square foot, 2-story mixed use carriage house is proposed, which will include professional services on the ground floor and an accessory dwelling unit on the 2nd floor. The subject property is currently non-conforming asphalt parking lot, and that is non-conforming because it is a standalone parking lot, which is not allowed in the NGHD zone district. I have an existing condition slide that will show what I'm referring to there. The site plan requires 15 parking spaces, tallied as 9 residential spaces and 6 commercial spaces. The applicant is providing 15 spaces, 11 are on site and 4 are on street in front of the property. While the overall parking meets the requirements for the proposed development, staff is concerned that the parking requirements for the existing and the proposed uses together are not being met. Some of the current parking being used by the existing commercial uses is being displaced by the proposed development. The parking requirements and regulations are subject to review and adjustment by the UDO administrator, and that's per UDO section 515-7A. And here's an existing conditions exhibit. This is the subject property. It is adjacent to the gas station, which also includes a barber shop. These are the parking spaces that we're referring to that are non-conforming. However, they are used often, they're most of the times when you go by here during regular business hours, most of these spaces are being taken up, as well as all of the parking within the parking lot. So our concern is these spaces go away, and the spaces that are going to be brought back in with the proposed development are only to meet the requirements of the buildings that are being proposed. So we think there's going to be a deficit of parking spaces. There's going to be issues with customers, folks that want to utilize this commercial retail establishment using the parking spaces that are set up for the two proposed buildings. Looking at the site plan, a closer view, actually using the same existing drive coming off of Maybank, I've said that twice. I'm back on Johns Island. May River Road, this is a 22-foot access easement that will have to be recorded. It accommodates two-way traffic. It's a drive that'll come back and provide access to the parking spaces here and here as well. There's existing parking here and across the front of the commercial building. The parking that you can't see here that is also being heavily utilized sits right about there. This is a colonnade porch that's wrapping around the professional office building, proposed building, which sits here. There's 4 parking spaces out front. There is, I was going to point out there's an existing tree to remain here. That's a live oak as well as here. The site includes a magnolia that is 6 inches DBH and 2 live oaks at 10 and 14 inches. The applicant proposes the removal of the magnolia and 1 10-inch live oak and replanting them, providing southern live oak and a Dahoon holly. As proposed, the site plan meets the tree canopy and open space requirements. However, the proposed landscape plan does not meet UDO section 515-7D2, requiring a visual buffer between the public right-of-way and off-street parking area to be a minimum of 42 inches in height and 50% opacity. I have a graphic that shows that. It's an easy fix. This is the landscape plan. We're looking at this corner here and what one gum tree is proposed. However, some plantings that will mature to 42 inches or above being provided across here would make it so that when you're on May River Road, you have a screening buffer between you and the parking lot. So simple fix, but it needs to be incorporated into their landscape plan. The applicant provided a traffic assessment that proposes shared overflow parking with the adjacent Bluffton Market property. Should a shared access agreement be required, an easement in conformance with UDO section 515-7G shall be recorded with Beaufort County Register of Deeds. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the July 23, 2025 DRC meeting. The applicant provided a resubmittal, including a response to comments on July 30, 2025. That was in your packet. Subject property is within the Old Town Historic District and will require a certificate of appropriateness, historic district reviewing landscaping, lighting, and architecture at time of final development plan approval. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310-3A of the UDO in assessing the application. Here are the criteria. Responses to them are included in the packet, staff report. Planning Commission has the authority to take the following action. You can approve the application as submitted. You can approve the application with conditions. You can table the application, or you can deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Should the Planning Commission choose to approve the application with conditions, town staff finds the following conditions should be met prior to final development plan approval to be in conformance with UDO section 310-3A. The UDO administrator will review and adjust the parking requirements and regulations for the subject and adjacent properties as needed to address staff's concerns. 2 would be provide an updated landscape plan providing a visual buffer between public right-of-way and off-street parking area, a minimum of 42 inches in height and 50% opacity at the time of final development plan review. That's an easy fix. And 3 is provide a shared access easement recorded with Beaufort County prior to final development plan approval. Here is the suggested motion we can go back to. I'll open it up for questions, and the applicant is here.
Does the applicant want to speak first? And what is it with you and parking space issues today?
Yeah, today.
Is it me or? Hi again, Kathleen Duncan, J.K. Tiller Associates. And I am happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to go into the parking if you want me to start there, but I kind of wanted to open the floor and let you guys give me a little more of your feedback before I dove into anything.
Well, let's take it and see where it goes with the commission. Okay. Your turn.
My only concern, other than the parking, is that at DRC, one of the comments was it really proposes too much development on too few of a land area. And my impression was that was received and moved on. So I'm curious whether or not that comment from the DRC resonated with the applicant at all.
I would say that, of course, comments that are brought at DRC are of great consideration as we're reviewing this.
Good answer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and
Did anything change?
here's what changed. I would say our communication about the site and clarifying a few items. I think that is more how we address that rather than reducing anything on the property. I think that's to answer your question.
I don't know, I just struggle. You've got replacing one non-conforming use and then creating another one. So I really don't know how to address that. UDO administrator, it says, is gonna address the parking, but, how are you gonna, it's just a struggle. It's just a comment. I don't know where to go with it, but it's not really a question. It's just.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
All right, elephant in the room,
Yeah.
right? The required parking on the Texaco site, 9 spaces. That's it. That's all that's required on that Texaco site for the uses that are in that building. Do you know how many are provided on that site? 15. So we are actually that Texaco site already exceeds the required amount of parking on that site. So we're not actually making, that part of the Texaco site is not a nonconformity, and we're not reducing the nonconformance of that, or impacting the conformance of that adjacent property.
Okay.
That being said, there's approximately about 19 spaces that are being utilized-ish on this vacant lot. And that's including the on-street parking. I'm at 15.
Okay, point noted. Let's let the other commissioners
sorry.
make comments.
Sure.
No, that's fine. You made a good point, and
Yeah.
I do appreciate it.
Okay.
But other thoughts on this?
I'll conclude with everybody that's made the same comment to you as well, which is, you have, whether it be that barber shop or whatever, the parking is there, and now you're kind of like taking away that space, and what you're saying, you're creating some space, so there's space that's not. I mean, I have the same concerns, that's all.
Well, a couple of thoughts. First of all, a clarifying question for Mr. Frazier. I'm noticing this drive lane, the two-way drive lane is 22 feet. And this is probably me just not keeping up with life around here. Isn't that supposed to be 24 feet when there's parking involved?
No, 22 feet accommodates two-way parking. It's in the UDL, calls it out as 22.
Okay, my bad on that. I have two thoughts on this, and they're contrary thoughts. Thought number one is, just because a current use is using more parking than is required, do we punish something new that's going in next to it? Thought number two is, this proposed development is borrowing land from the parcel that's developed now for an easement so that more can be put on it. I think when that easement is put in with the two-lane road that hops over, and now you've got a shared access point, that opens it up for this discussion about, is there too much going on between the two properties? And that's where I'm struggling with this, and it becomes how big are these buildings? These are three-story buildings going on here. That if it was narrower, oriented a little different, I know we're supposed to orient it to May River Road, but there are exceptions. Can some space be grabbed back? I mean, that's a huge porch on those buildings. How big is that porch?
9 feet?
9 feet.
Christopher Epson, Circle Architecture. I'm the architect. That porch is 8 feet. As per the UDO, we have 8 feet of the inside column. We have been to our conceptual meeting. Dan and the chair of HBC and the whole board has seen the buildings. And the buildings are within contextual. They approved everything except for I just need to move my column spacing. So it's actually 2.5 stories. It's not 3 stories because the half story is within the roof.
Yeah, but it's a half story on the outside, but a full story on the inside. I know what you're saying, yeah.
And what we're doing with those is that we're utilizing the outside as our ADA accessibility and our egress instead of using interior space, which is a part of CPTED, if you're familiar with CPTED. Crime prevention through environmental design. It's not to, it's using natural elements to reduce the ability or the, give me a second, the way crime can be prevented. Blind spots, like some of the buildings behind it. Not my building behind it, the other ones. It's make it hide. So we put everything on the outside so you can see where it's coming from, and it makes it more part of the community.
Thank you.
I'd love to bring that in to more, but we would have to get HBC to give us that ability to bring our colonnade in.
Okay. So, as somebody who lives on Lawrence Street who's had to deal with HPC guidelines, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Charlie, if you don't mind, may I make a response to some of the comments? Going back to the parking, there are 15 spaces between on-site and on-street here. Those we are allowing to be shared with the adjacent, with the Texaco site. So we only have really a net loss of about 4 spaces with the development of the site. Anything we did on this site would impact the parking on the adjacent site. So like to your first point of how can you hold one property up based off of the usage of another property? This is, a perfect example of if they were to put a fence up, that would impact the adjacent property, and that's not even a development. And that would bring it into greater conformance because it would cut it off as a non-conforming use. All that to say, I think that from an ideal standpoint, this is very in keeping with the UDO. To your second point, Charlie, I'm sorry,
You're
Chairman
fine.
Wetmer, too familiar, is that oh gosh, where did it go? It was right there. The shared driveway, the UDO actually has a clause, and it's in, I think I have it written down, it was in the narrative, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but they actually ask for, if you are able to share a driveway, they actually prefer you to share a driveway access. So this is actually in conformance with the UDO from that standpoint even as well. And the fact that it is providing parking for the Texaco site, I think is a great asset to this area. Additionally, I would point out, I drive by this site every day. We've had this project on the books for months, if not almost a year, unfortunately, which means I drive by and I look at this at peak PM hours every day. And one of the things that I've noticed about it is that the people are actually, because of the ease of it, they're actually choosing to park on the vacant lot rather than parking on the Texaco site. So I think you would actually see really a shift in where they're parking, not a shift to like where we're not going to be able to park them. The other comment that I wanted to share with you is I was talking with the Patels, who are here today, by the way. This is Preet and his father, Paresh. That their barbershop in there is actually one of the uses, because the way they do their scheduling or don't do their scheduling for their clientele, they come and then they wait to get their hair cut. And so what that does is causes a lot of extra parking and people hanging out and congregating. So they would work with the barbershop to actually schedule those people more like the barbershop in the promenade does. So that would also help alleviate some of those parking concerns as it pertains to these two properties.
Does this connect to the Palmetto Square in the back?
Mm-mm.
So how, like circulation-wise, what's the distance from May River Road to the back of the building as far as turnaround of a fire truck or anything?
The civil engineer has a diagram for the fire truck access to the rear. I don't know the distance.
I saw it in here.
Hey, good evening, Nathan Sturry, civil engineer. So we're not really measuring that 150 feet from May River Road. It really starts at, excuse me, the drive aisle to the parking along the building. So we are less than 150 feet from that drive aisle, and we can appropriately turn around a fire truck and get it out of the site safely.
The fire marshal has a review on DRC, right, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're using the fuel pump bays as your hammerhead, basically? Okay.
Yeah, it's running right up there.
As long as the fire marshal's okay with it.
It becomes okay until and if the gas station's redeveloped. Which would be weird not seeing Mr. Patel at the gas station, but that's. Any other questions, comments? To entertain a motion? Dan, has the staff suggested conditions if you do a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. I move to conditionally approve the 1271 May River Road preliminary development plan application subject to the following conditions. Number one, the UDO administrator will review and adjust the parking requirements and regulations for the subject and adjacent properties as needed to address staff's concerns. Number two, provide an updated landscape plan providing a visual buffer between public right-of-way and off-street parking area, a minimum of 42 inches in height and 50% opacity at the time of final development plan review. And number three, provide a shared access easement recorded with Beaufort County prior to final development plan review.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next agenda item, any items for discussion? Anybody want to make a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.